Hello, welcome back to At Home with Cici. I am Cici, mama to three amazing humans, and among other things, a homeschooling parent. We are an eclectic homeschooling family in the UK, in London specifically. I draw from our experiences, our life, our interests, as well as Montessori, Waldorf, and Charlotte Mason pedagogies. And I weave them in however suits us, and there's no rigidity in our home education style. It's always evolving, always changing, and sometimes it's more of one thing and then another time it's more of another thing. At the moment this year, I've planned the year so that every month or two we were focusing on a continent of the world and then incorporating other activities into that, or other topic subjects into that. For example, learning numbers in a different language, or doing art through cultural studies, looking at another country or something, how they do art. I had planned for South America to be June and July, but summer and life took over, and that study was extended over a longer time, and we've only recently just finished the South America unit. But that's fine, that's home education, nothing always goes to plan, or life really, and it's okay, there's no pressure. It's our life, we're choosing what we're doing, and it's okay. So we've just finished South America and we're going on to Oceania this week. So at the weekend I went on a little spree, and I have some books to share with you that are either very specific to places in Oceania, or books that we will be able to use for all sorts of subjects, which is mainly the way I like to buy books. Things that can be applied in different ways. So so the plan was continents throughout the year, and would end with Antarctica in December, because we would be doing a shorter time, and Antarctica won't take as long. We're still going to fit it in. Oceania is just going to be compact and squeezed in, and that's fine. We're just going to focus really heavily on it. And the reason I think this is a fine idea, and actually a good idea, is because of Oceania's rich depth of history and not well known to us culture and history. I think that we'll be really into it, especially because my little one right now, her love is seemingly Polynesian culture. Obviously Moana and Lilo and Stitch are big reasons, but also she seems to be a natural hula dancer, and she adores instruments, and we do woven melodies music lessons. Each lesson is a different instrument. Recently we did the flute, and the didgeridoo is a type of flute, and she was very intrigued by it. So we do have a didgeridoo coming being delivered in a couple of days, which is very exciting. Oh, that was good. So because we can incorporate a lot of art and music and dance into this topic of Oceania, I feel like packing it in heavily or quickly will work really well, because she'll just be really into it. At the end of the video, I'm going to give you a little update of her Book of the World. I've shown it in another video, which I'll link here. So yeah, I was going to say, I plan, because we don't necessarily follow school timetables, I kind of plan yearly from January. So this year we started in February because it was a bit of a late plan, but nonetheless, that is my plan for planning, is to do it from January to December. It just makes sense to my brain. I don't want to live by school timetables in terms of like attending school, so why would I live by their timetables when we're home educating? So we're living our own life. So yes, planning through the calendar year rather than the school year. And when I plan for next year, it's going to be more focused on reading and narration. So Maya does do narration, oral narration. We do a book at a time, but we're still slogging through Peter Pan, and I think we're not going to finish the book. We're doing the classic Peter Pan and Wendy by J.M. Barrie, and the illustrations are gorgeous by Robert Ingpen, but I feel like the story and the language is beautiful and rich, the language, but the story is just not grasping her at all, and so her narration is not very, doesn't show any interest either. Like, it starts that way, but it requires me to do a little bit more coaxing than I'd like to do for narration. So we're going to, I think, just end Peter Pan where we are, and then choose a book that is more appealing to my little one, because narration is quite a fundamental thing in the Charlotte Mason approach, but it's also something I just agree with individually, that to really absorb knowledge, you have to reiterate it, if that makes sense. So hearing, taking it in, and then saying it in your own words with your own voice is something I think is very, very important. And then as she grows as a reader and a writer herself, she will have a strong voice of her own. My older two, they were always given feedback on their writing that their voice was very clear and strong, and they had a distinct style. So I think a child's voice in their own writing and in their own retelling of stories and literature is very, very important. So narration and books are going to be a big thing through our next year of home education, and that's why there's such a big pile of books here that we will get into now. So this unit that we're going to do, even though it's going to be short, is very book heavy, but not long, not extensive reading, but a lot of information, a lot of story, and a lot of illustration and facts and interesting things. Because Oceania's history is very rich and that it's full of stories itself, it just lends itself well to a book heavy approach. Maya really, especially at bedtime, loves folklore stories and stories from around the world. We have a book called Earth, Sea and Stars, which after the contents page has a map of the continents, and then it shows where each of the stories comes from. There's another book like that in this hall as well. And like I said, with music and art and movement, her interest will be completely sparked, and I've chosen a few books that will help engage her further and provide some context as well to it all. She's interested, like I said, we do woven melodies, and she plays the violin, or she's practicing the violin. I have a saxophone that she loves to incredibly play, like breathe through. She's able to get such a great sound, like the first time she played it was incredible. Maybe I'll put a video in. So violin, saxophone, she has her little piano and percussion instruments, loads of percussion instruments in our music basket. The ukulele she loves, and ukulele of course is a very integral part of Hawaiian, even though that's not in Polynesia, but Hawaiian and Pacific Island music. And then of course the didgeridoo, so very exciting for music time. But oh my gosh, let me stop talking and let's get into the book haul. Thank you for being patient. Beginning of the year, before we started the continent studies, we did global trees work, trees from around the world, trees from each continent, and Maya discovered some trees that she fell in love with, and I found some trees that I couldn't believe. Some of them were so magical and beautiful. I wish I had this book then, but we have it now. It's called Around the World in 80 Trees. So 80 trees from around the world, very simple. And I've just tabbed what we'll be looking at for this study, which is Oceania, and it has trees from, where is it? Let's see, it has Australian, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and some other smaller Pacific islands. Sorry, I was just looking at it myself. So with our continent studies, we would choose, I would choose a few countries from each continent. It would be ridiculous to do like all million countries in Europe or every country in Africa. So we picked a few from each location on the compass, and then a few in between, or ones that we had connection to or specific interest in. So in South America, we did mainly the Spanish-speaking countries because we are learning Spanish, and then Brazil because it's the biggest one. It's easy to identify, and there's lots of rich culture and easy access information out there to learn that one. And then as she grows, when we revisit South America, we'll go to other countries. But yes, so in this book, it has all the places that I'm planning for us to visit in our Oceania study. Fiji, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand and Australia. So that's that one. So with that, we're just reading about trees, and then we can make some art from it. Who knows? I'm not going in any specific order with this. They're just in a pile of how they are displayed on the bookshelf and the display bookshelf as well. This book is called Prisoners of Geography, A World Explained in 12 Simple Maps. So it has history from these parts of the world, and down at the bottom is Australia, and it just gives a little palatable, child-friendly history of how Australia came to be as it is today, the geography of it, but also the human history of it. But you can see the facts are very, very minimal, and the illustration is the main part, so it's very interesting, really engaging, but also is begins the conversations about I guess colonialism and the heavier subjects, so it's not confusing when we get to them in later years. We've already discussed that this is how things were, and it isn't just this is a country because this is a country, that there are reasons they end up this way. But it's also great because it tells us how and why Australia has some very exclusive animals, because the continent and the country is so isolated from the rest of the world of land. That's why we have so many different and interesting animals in Australia, and that will lead us on to our animal studies of Oceania as well. A book we use every week in our homeschool is Lonely Planet Kids, This Is My World. And again, happily it has the 5 places in Oceania that we're looking at. There are 2 Australias, and it's just a 2-page spread of a child from that country in the world, and then it's like a little biography about them, their life, their family, their interests, their hobbies, what they like about where they live, their age, and 3 words they use to describe themselves. So Maya always chooses her own words for each time we look at this, and it's really fun and sweet. And then eventually, before the end of this year, I'm planning to make a 2-page spread for Maya as well. So she'll answer some questions, and I'll write it down, and we'll put pictures of her favourite things and of herself. So that will be exciting for her. She'll be part of the book. Another one we use a lot during our continents studies is Amazing Places from Barefoot Books. I highly recommend Barefoot Books to get some books from. They don't do secondhand, but what they do have are great deals sometimes, and also just books that you might not necessarily find elsewhere. This one you probably can. Amazing Places, so this one is more about landmarks or wonders of the world, but they're human-made things. And this one, the only place in Australia they talk about is the Sydney Opera House. Now, like I said, with the Oceania study for this month, we are not necessarily going to be focused as much on the geographical flags and mapping, but more the culture, the story, the history, and the art and music. But it's good to know, this is a very famous landmark, and you can't not know about it. and Australia is a big part of Oceania. So that we'll be reading about and looking at. So they have this large picture, a little introduction to the place, and then on the next page is it's like as if you were visiting this place for real. So what do you need to pack, and what you will see and smell and hear, and things to look out for if you were there. So it's really nice. It's like you're truly traveling to that place. So we love that book. Another one that is gorgeous is Mythology Land. This is one I alluded to earlier, which has stories from around the world, different parts of the world, some quite famous stories that we've probably all heard of. So it doesn't have it on the contents page, so I just wrote it in myself. But I've put under here where each of the stories are from. So we have Rama and Sita, the Great Race, the Trojan Horse, so on and so on. And so we have Hindu, Chinese, Greek, Aztec, West African, Slavic, Welsh, Norse, Egyptian, Japanese, Inuit, and then perfectly they have a Polynesian story, and it's called The Great Maui, which is perfect because if you're Moana people, you know that Maui is a character as well as, you know, a mythological story as well. So The Great Maui is something we will read. The illustrations are stunning, and just look at that, beautiful. So we'll read these stories more than once, really understand the history and the folklore, and it's just done in such a nice way. And then the last page of the story is just a little bit about the specific place that it happened. How gorgeous is that? So that's going to be a big part of our Oceania work. Again, something we always have during our content studies is the maps book, which is really just a visual reference that we use. There's no reading necessarily, there's labels more than anything. But it's nice to, like Maya likes to look and point at what she recognizes or things that she'd like to find out more about, which is a good one. So we have Australia and Oceania here. And then the next page is a closer look at Australia and a closer look at New Zealand. And then it just has some things that you can identify New Zealand by, some famous landmarks and geographical identifiable places. We just have this out next to us when we are doing our work, and then she will look at it and find something interesting in it. We don't necessarily read or spend a long time on this one, but it's a very nice visual reference to have. So because we'll be in the Pacific Islands, or among the Pacific Islands, there's a lot of water around, and with Australia also there's the Great Barrier Reef. So ocean study will be a big part. I've planned a mini sea turtle unit. Maya adores sea turtles. Sea turtles are a big part of that area of the water, and it's a really nice. They're a really nice animal to study in terms of art as well, because of the shape of them. They're easy to draw because they're a flowing animal, if that makes sense. And the colours are beautiful as well. So I've got a mini unit using some resources from Thistles and Biscuits, who also do the Woven Melodies music lessons. It's just a mini unit. It was £5 online. Yeah, £5 or $5 online, and I just printed off some nomenclature cards of all the different sea turtles with information on the back, and some life cycle work, and some conservation / environmental work, and then maybe a little story work. But no pressure. If she's not interested, we won't do it. We're really just reading about them and learning about them and looking at them. So Oceanarium. I'm sure you've all seen these books before. Welcome to the museum books. I've just tabbed the page for the sea turtle. And these pictures are very similar to the flashcards or the nomenclature cards that I just mentioned. So we have all the information here, maybe some repeated information or extra information from that mini unit and from other studies that we'll be looking at. But that's just a nice page to hold up at the table or on the floor while we're doing and reading. Okay, there's another book I found which is really fun. You can see all the tabs here. They're like multi-stacked. Is Hidden, this is Lonely Planet Kids again. Hidden Wonders, a guide to the planet's wildest, weirdest places. So there's lots of Australia, lots of New Zealand, or some New Zealand, and then a couple of smaller Pacific islands like New Caledonia and Vanuatu. Sorry if I say that wrong. So let's see, let's find a page. Oh, look at that. Okay, so there's this place. I'm not going to attempt to say it right now, but this here is the full name of the place. It's one word, and it is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest place name in the world at 85 letters long. So that could be something she might want to put in her Book of the World that we learned about in New Zealand, or Lake Ballard, which is in Western Australia. Ooh. And it appears like a mirage. Just some interesting stuff that you won't normally hear about or read about in typical books. It's not the usual canon of information, which is fun. Again, they're really short, either 1 or 2 page spreads with lots of images, real images of the places and some information about them. And it's just, you know, taking in lots of information, and then from that something will stick and Maya will find it interesting and we can explore it further. Okay, so I mentioned animals. We have our lovely Anthology of Animals book, and I've just tabbed kangaroo, platypus, kiwi and koala, 3 Australian animals, and then obviously the kiwi, animal of the kiwi. So again, these are real photos of the animals with a nice, simple, child-friendly, short attention span friendly information, but beautifully written, beautifully photographed, and then we can use these pictures, because we won't see these outside our house, for nature study as well. So there's a cartoony version or the real version, and Maya would choose which one she wants to draw from, and then we'll put that in her Book of the World. Maya has become really, really interested in honing her artistic skills and her drawing skills, and she has shown great ability at drawing from sight, but also drawing from memory. She surprised me the other day drawing ducks in a pond just from her head, and I was like so just amazed by how she remembered how we had initially gone through. This was back in the spring, where she spotted a robin and she wanted to draw it, and that's how we started her nature journal. Remembering the step-by-step process we did of all of the shapes to create the image of a robin, I could see she was applying those to draw ducks, and it was incredible. So we're really gonna push and hone those artistic tendencies and capabilities by continuing our art study and nature study. And speaking of art, a man in the bookshop helped me find this, and a lovely blue tit has just perched himself right outside the window. This book, hello, the Children's Book of Art, and it's quite hard to find one book that encompasses not just Western or Europe-centric art and art making, but provides information about global art and global artists. And this book actually kind of does that better than most. So I've just tabbed the intro, because I think the intro is like a really nice page, even though it's just a gallery of art, and art doesn't always have to be in a gallery to be art, to be valid art. The page says, what is art? This is a tricky question to answer, because art can be so many things, which I appreciate. So already I'm into the book. I'm liking what they're trying to say. So it explains how art can be different for different people and in different ways and in different contexts. And then we have, again, I'm going to say it again, 2-page spreads. I love a 2-page spread for homeschooling. So we have rocky beginnings, you know, cave paintings and cave drawings. So there's that. Then we have Egyptian scribes. Next page, faces in art. Next page, how to make frescoes. And so it has like step-by-step guides. So it's not just information about the art or art history or about an artist. It gives you like practical things to do that you can explore yourself. And then the page after that is what we need, Dreamtime art, which is the Aboriginal era, I guess, of history where they believed is when the world was created, and the very identifiable dot art, which we will try and mimic somehow, respectfully mimic, with that old classic school process of Q-tips, cotton buds, and dipping in paint and dotting art. But you know, I think it's a rite of passage to do that. Every child should do some Aboriginal inspired art. So this is what a 2-page spread going over the art, and then we can find stories that we want to tell, or Maya wants to tell, through her art, animals she wants to draw, shapes she wants to make, colours she wants to use, to tell her stories, just like the people of Australia, the native people of Australia did in their time. And then throughout this book, it goes on to so many different things: specific artists, African art, working art, Emily Carme, Georgia O'Keeffe, After Impressionism, Claude Monet, how to use watercolour, children in art, lots and lots and lots and lots. So it's a great book. We're gonna use this a lot, I imagine. Perfect. Very happy with that. And with all the books I've shown you so far, they will apply. Yeah, all of them so far will apply to so many topics, so many studies, so many lessons. So I'm very, very happy. Another one I'm happy about is the Animal Atlas. So like the Animal Anthology, the gold leaf type page one, the beautiful one that I showed you with the koala, that is a gorgeous book. I love it. But the order of the pages has no rhyme or reason. They're not alphabetically done, they're not geographically done, they're not animal categorization done. They're just all over the place, which is fine. But when you're specifically looking for something and wanting to focus on a specific place or a specific type, this book is great because it is the animals from all the specific places on Earth, the more recognizable ones. So we start here with animals from the outback in Australia, and then it has a nice image of Australia. And tiny pieces of information about all the animals, so Maya will look and see something that's interesting to her, and then we can go deeper into that animal and study closer. Then it's rainforests and woods. So it's not just like the continent that the animals come from, but also the sort of biomes, the habitats that they live in as well, which Maya really is intrigued by. And then what I saw on this page is, I don't know if I should say this, but this is our surname. So we have a tree kangaroo. I looked it up, and apparently the information says there's only 55 wild individuals left. I didn't research too deeply, that was Google AI, but that's quite devastating. But so important to learn about. So yeah. Rainforests and woods. Then we have the Barrier Reef and the island of Tasmania. And then the final page is New Zealand. So this is a perfect book. It's so small, but it does exactly what I wanted it to do. Okay, some more stories. Because we're in the ocean a lot in the Pacific Islands, we have 5-minute ocean stories. I have this book, and it's called 5-Minute Nature Stories, and they're really, really clever. They are about a specific part of nature or event that happens in nature or an animal, and they tell a short story, and then at the end it's more factual. So for example, I've tabbed the coral story and the sea turtle story, as I can imagine you understand why. So if we go to the coral story, it's like poetic rhyming story, not necessarily a narrative, but it takes you through, for example, this ocean in motion is fully alive with the humming of fishes that flicker and dive. And then you get to see all the beautiful imagery And then at the end, there's some factual information. So clownfish and anemones have a symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic relationship is a complex term, but not one that is too mature for a child. It's something they can learn to say and understand. And it's beautiful that they introduce it here so easily, so nonchalantly. This means they live together in harmony, each giving the other something they need. And then we can further investigate what symbiotic means, or find other relationships like that in nature and in our lives. And then more details here, and then it finishes with another little rhyme. So yeah, this is the format for all these books. There's ocean, there's space, there's other ones, but yeah, I would definitely recommend these books. And really, really pretty. Not real images, but it's a story, so it's not too terrible. Another one is an ocean full of stories, 50 folk tales and legends from around the world. So it's similar to the Mythology Land, similar to the one I mentioned called Earth, Sea and Stars, but this one is specifically about the ocean. And again, quite a few of the places we're specifically looking at for our unit this time. So we have Australia, Samoa, Micronesia, New Zealand and Papua New Guinea. Micronesia is just a Pacific island. It doesn't have Fiji, but that's okay. This is enough. And the stories are beautiful. Let's find one. And I'm gonna say it again. It's either 1 or 2 page spread. Let's find it. So yeah, they're not in order, but so there's Europe here and then Oceania here, but it's just this page. Oh, it's Maui again. Oh no, and it goes over there. Some of them are just 1 page, some of them are 2 or 3 pages. Okay, so we've got 2 Maui stories, which is fantastic. That to me is brilliant. Okay, last one we have, this is another series of books which I really, really like. Again, they are stories that lead on to facts or are interwoven with facts. So there's a narrative, but there's also like specific information as well. We have a rainforest story and we have an Arctic story, and this is a coral reef story. So this is a coral reef, and then it has labels and it tells you what a coral reef is. And then it takes you on a journey through the coral reef at different times. So like you're following a chronology maybe, or there's some sort of narrative. So yeah, it started in November, then now it's February it says, and then the storm has passed, time passes, so it's a lot about passing time as well, and how things continue and evolve and change and then come back around again. And the illustrations are really, really lovely. So another great book for the ocean. That is all the books I have to show you right now. I'm very excited for this next few weeks of study with my little one. Lots of reading to be done, and I think she's going to love it. So within all these stories are opportunities for art, for storytelling, for nature studies, for language arts development, and for music as well, because of the instruments I mentioned that are coming or we have, and the hula dancing. And it will provide a beautiful context for her. We're learning the hula language as we're learning the dancing in our lessons. And I think that using books and following the idea inspired by Charlotte Mason's approach, that the basis for all learning is in literature, and rich literature is something that we're holding on to in our home school. And when you read a book, it holds memories for you, and you hold memories of that book as well. So when the book is on the bookshelf, you can look at it and think, oh yeah, I remember that way that story was told, or how I felt during that story. And you remember the information you learned and the interest you found. When children, do worksheets and workbooks, and it's great, and it's good to solidify because they are putting down what they've learned. But those don't necessarily stay on the bookshelf, and I think having physical books that you can look back on and learn from, and reinvestigate and revisit are something not to be denied to a child. I think books are truly a gift. And also, books I consider are an heirloom. They'll be passed on as well. So all this knowledge, all these memories will be handed over and shared with generations and family members and people and friends to come. Having said that, I do love a little notebook or journal. So I just wanted to update you because I did have in the comments about the video with these notebooks in that some of you wanted an updated video showing what Maya has done so far. So we've seen Africa. I'm just going to flip really quickly through these. We've seen these ones, that's why I'm going fast. If you want to see them in more detail, then you can watch the video linked. This was when she was 3. And then we moved on to Europe. So there's Europe, it's in the Northern Hemisphere. We started, of course, with United Kingdom, because that's where we are. London Bridge in England and the River Cam, because we go to Cambridge every year. Ireland, Song of the Sea is my favourite Irish film. Then we went to Austria. She drew the Tyrolean hat and wrote Yodelay Hee Hoo. Then we went to Italy and we remember the flag of Italy, basil, mozzarella and tomato. Then we went to France and we love croissants, vegan croissants with vegan butter. Spain and the Spanish guitar. South America now, and we she coloured in the countries that we looked at: Brazil, oh don't test me, Ecuador, come on, Argentina, Chile, and Peru. We're still learning. Oh yeah, Peru. It's Peru because it kind of looks like a pea. Okay, so there's Brazil, the language is Portuguese, hola, and then in Brazil we have a lot of the rainforest, and we read the rainforest story, similar to a coral reef story, and the animal she was most intrigued by in that book of all the animals was the caiman, which I was surprised by, and the sentence she wanted to write was, "Caiman are brave." And then we went to Argentina. It snows in the south, in the north it's sunny. So she would tell me, she will narrate to me what she wants to write or as something she learned, and then I will write it down for her to copy. So this is her words, but not her spelling. Everybody plays football here, and she drew Lionel Messi kicking a ball. And we went to Chile. Is rainy for 3 seasons, which I'd had no idea about. And we learnt that in the Lonely Planet Kids. Whoops. We learned that in the Children of the Wild book. The child in that story told us that, so that was nice. And macaroni penguins live in the south of Chile. Again, no idea about that. I had no idea. Peru. Inca are called sky people because they lived in the clouds. I can't remember where we learnt that. But that is a fact that she held on to. That was the main thing she remembered when reading about Peru. And she really focused on the shield, the cornucopia, the specific tree and the specific animal. And then the Nazca lines, which tried an experiment with some, pastels, but I don't think they were oily enough. And then a wash of brown to look like the Nazca lines that are drawn into the earth. And then finally we finished with Ecuador. Ecuador is in the northwest and is on the equator. That's its name in Spanish. It has a tropical climate. Again, these are the things she told me, and then I wrote them down for her to copy, and she did a big sun and rain. And then we're going to go on to Oceania. So there's your little update of her book of the world, which she and I adore. Okay, so yes, that's everything I think I wanted to show you for Oceania, the book haul, and a couple of little updates about where we are in our home education style. We're going to be focusing a lot on reading, on narration, oral narration, and as she grows we'll begin written narration. We're going to be focusing a lot on art and honing her skills and her interests in that, and continuing with music. And when I've planned for the new year, I'll do a video for that. That won't be for a while. In the last video we were playing a game and I was showing you our new Love Every resource of books, and some of you have asked for a video on seeing the books in use and being read, so maybe that will be the next video. But until the next one, I hope you have a wonderful, peaceful, exciting time in life, and I'll see you then. Take care. Thanks for being here.